So in training, there's something called the dichotomy of training, right? And what that is when you're taking one side of the spectrum or the other, you're training both sides to expand those extremes. For instance, I've often talked about martial arts being a diminutive style of exercise. What that means is when you're doing full range of motion, the more advanced you get with doing the full range of motion, you can start cutting corners just a little bit. So what you're doing in training may not come out in, say, sparring the same way. So for instance, when doing a roundhouse kick, we talk about chamber. A lot of schools will teach you this tabletop from here because they want you to get that hip turnover. Okay? When they're hitting a heavy bag, a lot of times they'll kick and turn and push off of it. All right? But if I'm going to throw in a roundhouse all the way to the side here, it is a massive telegraph. It's not necessarily as effective against an opponent. Again, this is kind of where the shadow boxing aspect comes in. So instead of lifting the knee up high for here, for that roundhouse, I'm actually going to come up either at a 30 degree, which it almost looks more like it's straight up on that front kick, diminishing that angle from the side to coming up here and then twisting over at the end. So going into this, it's a diminutive, you're diminishing the angle. That's where it's diminutive. Now taking that roundhouse kick into account on the opposite end of that. This is where your stretches come in when you're holding in the dynamic or isometric holds. You may not be able to kick very high. So you need to practice on your stretch. You need to practice on holding. You need to practice those pulses coming up and down. I may only be able to kick here. Maybe that's as high as I go. And my stretch is only like this. So you're focusing a lot more on extending that and raising that foot up so you can kick higher and higher. Again, for that roundhouse, I've tried to increase that angle from here. This is the dichotomy of training. From this portion right here, higher and higher. And I'm getting that with proper balance, proper posture, proper lean. I may be coming back and getting the hand to counterbalance with that, but it all comes from proper technique first. So going into our breakdown again for this week, the dichotomy of training in the essence of martial arts, you got to train both sides. And we'll go into more of these types of exercises because we have some exercises that are based off of very slow, controlled, concentrated movements, and some that are more ballistic. But same idea, you want to hit up both sides of your training so it's not just one side heavy and you're missing out on a whole other aspect of your training. So as we go to the weekend, have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.